with the NCS, Nissen Candle Scanner, with abbreviations. As you can see, like this is a bear sash formation over here. You've got a bull Hadame over here, hammer, etc. So these are all abbreviations. These can all be changed to full text if you want. I'll show you some of those configurations and settings when I go to the settings screen later. We can make whatever configuration you'd like. So in terms of some of the other tick charts are not going to be the same as candlesticks. So candlesticks are based on just regular data measured the same way, open, close with a high and a low, right? So when you zoom in on a candle, you're going to have the high, the low, the close, the open. On a red candle, same thing, high, low, open, close, right? So it won't be the same with a tick chart at all. It's altogether differently calculated, so it won't work the same way. If somehow you can combine them and make the NCS work with it, I've never tried it because it was always designed just for the candlestick as such. So I've left it alone because I think the candlesticks tell you enough already as it is. Maybe if you want to use tick charts, use a separate chart, and then maybe you use a combination of data or information and signals from candlesticks as well as with tick charts. Maybe you'll get even more exponential information that way, perhaps. Spinning top, now a question regarding, essentially, yes, it's a small real body. You'll have upper lower shadows. They can vary in size. So for instance, that could be considered right over here, right? The high wave is similar in nature as well. That's called high wave based on the size of the upper and lower shadows and comparatively to the real bodies as well. A form of doji, essentially neutral type candle. So spinning tops can be very much the same thing. So there's a lot of similarities between them all. There's lots of similarities between candlesticks. There's so many names, literally dozens and dozens and dozens. And as Paul was saying, the top 28 that at least Steve thought were either the most recurring or perhaps the easiest to interpret and use and follow through on at least information regarding whether the trade is valid or not in a context with support resistance and whatever other perhaps Western indicators you might be using or not. Myself, I have used indicators at times, and there's many times I spent a lot of time following Steve's education and getting his certification to really study the candles by themselves as the Japanese did, trying to go pure. And it has been an enormous education on my own, as well as going back and reviewing the DVDs and or the textbooks that Steve has written and essentially brought from Japan years ago. So yeah, super powerful. You get a ton of information. You get an enormous amount of feedback and insight on what is going on in the psychology of human beings that are trading. So let's see, is there any other questions I should look up? We talked about updates. I use TradeStation. How would I know if an update came up or not? Well, we haven't had any updates in a while, other than the fact that we've upgraded to a slightly newer version for NinjaTrader 8 because the coding was different when they came out with NT8, but otherwise there's been no updates as of this time. So we would be notifying you. All users would be notified via email to those updates. If you have a change of email, then probably get back to us and let us know what that change might be so that you don't miss anything in the very few future. Perhaps at some point we might even post it on the website as well. So that might be something to watch for over time. But right now there's been nothing of significance. So a spinning top to me would be more of a generic overall, right? So you'd have a spinning top which would have size and upper and lower shadows. High wave would fit into that category. That's how I would just suggest it. And in terms of does one make a difference over the other, I would say no, really. I mean, essentially, they're neutral. So a doji is neutral, a high wave is neutral, a spinning top, in my opinion, would have a level of neutrality. So it's all, it's a different candlestick. That's all it is, but it's neutral. In terms of its level of neutrality, it's just neutral. So in terms of other bullish versus bearish candles, yes, some are more bearish and some are more bullish. That's education that you have to understand essentially what kind of how more bullish or how less bullish something might be, or same thing with the bearish side as well. Are there indicators needed in conjunction with the software? No, there are not. Essentially, NCS is an indicator. It is placed on your screen, on your chart, as an indicator. So when I right click and I go under indicators, you will find NCS listed there as one of the lists of indicators. So it's placed on there for what reason? To indicate candlesticks, right? That's what it's about. It's not there as a signal to tell you when to buy or to sell. It's an indicator. Just like if a MACD was on your chart, what does it tell you? It indicates something, and you have to make the interpretation. So it's not any different than that. So Bollinger Bands, moving averages, stochastics, RSI, whatever those listings were, think of the NCS as, yes, a candlestick recognizer, but it's an indicator to tell you that. After that, it's up to you to decide what that indicator is telling you and whether it's time to buy or sell or do nothing, right? So all these indicators have purpose. They all have interpretations. They all have meaning somehow, some way. And in combinations, they may have more meaning, less meaning, but certainly when it comes to candlesticks as an indicator, you could use them as a standalone like the Japanese did years ago. You can use them with stochastic, a MACD at the bottom, an RSI, with Bollinger Bands, whatever is suited for your style of trading, whatever gives you the most confidence and information to make the best decision possible for your trading success. So if that helps, okay. So no, and then on that. All right, so let's look at, because when you have NCS, you've got the capability to highlight your charts like this as an indicator to tell you where those candlesticks are. You can scan. So in other words, you can use what's called a market analyzer, like this essentially, and add another column with the NCS to identify. So scan through 10 stocks, whether it be combinations of futures, Forex, ETFs, doesn't really matter. Then you could set that to scan for daily charts, and you're looking for, say, the last several days to see if there's anything that came up the last several days, or for the week. You can do weekly charts, monthly charts, whatever you like, even intraday charts, to identify candlestick patterns of your choice. You have up to 28 to choose from. So the more instruments, right, the more instruments you use, the more candlesticks you choose to scan, the more bogged down, I guess I could use that word, your computer might be. So it's going to be a burden, more of a burden on your computer, because it's going to be going through all that scanning. So that's possible. So let me get to that later. If after purchasing the NCS, is there ongoing training offered? There are videos, and something similar to what we're doing today. Essentially, we've done what's called best practices. Those were done as live events, about an hour long, that would cover everything from what I'm doing now to showing you how to set up alerts, how to set up the market analyzer for various scanning purposes, how to configure and do the settings. So I'll be showing you some brief things regarding that, but I'm answering based on your questions now. So I'm going to give you maybe a little more than that. So as I said, we go to the indicators, and if we choose NCS on the left side down here as a configured version, this is the only indicator I have on this chart. So it's highlighted. The right-hand side gives me the properties, so you can see what I've chosen. Everything that says yes means that those are chosen to be on the screen. Anything that says no is not going to show up on the screen, ever, okay? And the other option is also what's called strict criteria, which is a more defined, more filtered version. It's a strict version of that candle pattern. Like, for instance, if I gave you an example, the bearish engulfing you see here. Traditionally, the bearish engulfing is the open and the close outside of the open and close of the previous candle. A strict candle would actually be outside of the whole thing, the high and the low included. So you can see that perhaps, and very likely then, a strict version of a bearish engulfing could be more powerful because it would be larger in size and it would truly engulf the whole thing versus just the real body. So that can be used as well at your convenience. And I mean, I can't even say on average necessarily, but if you've ever done like a scan with just a traditional versus the strict, you might see sometimes a third, a quarter, 10, 15, 20% of what the traditional. So it can certainly narrow down your search to something perhaps more powerful, more distinct, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's better at all times. It's always based on what you're looking for and what your interpretation will be, okay? So that's that portion. So that's essentially, you can choose what candlesticks you want and what format you want it to be in. As I said earlier, it can also be abbreviated or not. So all your candle patterns are here listed bullish to bearish, and then including neutral. You've got doji and high wave. You scroll down further. This is where it's kind of an easy button to choose none or all. That way you can start from scratch if you only want 2 or 3. That way you don't have to click on every single one, all 28, right? That makes it a little easier that way, I would think, right? And so on and so on. So that's essentially how you would configure this sort of thing. Let me see here. What else is? It looks like there's more questions that have come through. If my trading strategy for whatever style, day trading or swing, how far back is my look back period for my NCS candlestick patterns? Well, when it's on the chart, it's an indicator. So like any other indicator, it goes back as far back as the chart supplies data for that. So the chart itself will not have a look back period because it's just an indicator. On the scanning, you would have a look back period. So when you're scanning for something, you're going to look back like for like yesterday or for today at the end of the day, or you might be looking back a full week or just maybe a few days. When I've done, say, weekly scans, for instance, sometimes I would go back and I'd go give myself maybe 2 or 3 weeks to see what happened 2 or 3 weeks ago on a weekly chart, and then see how that then has transformed and proceeded from there on a daily basis to see if there's something that shows up afterwards. So there's different ways to go about it. It's going to be depend on your style and trading strategy. But if I get rid of that, you're going to see that everything on here right now, I've only got limited data on this chart, but if I were to add to the days right now, so I only got 500 days, but if I add 5,000 days and update that, you're going to see that as I go back, you'll see all the patterns are still there. You can go back as far back as you want on any chart because it's an indicator. Same as stochastics, RSI, Bollinger Band. They will all show up for whatever length of time you want. So there's no look back period on a chart. Only for your scanning do you have that. The alert probably has the same thing, but that depends on what you're doing there as well. So TradeStation radar screen, for example, if I want to buy dips in the context of uptrend on weekly charts, what number should I use for? Well, again, you have to go back and think about the look back period. Let's think about that. So if you are looking for a pullback, for instance, let's call it, let's go back to, let's see here. Let's just go back over here. So you've got a trend coming up, right? And here's your, you got a pullback here, you got a pullback here, right? So you're gonna have different days you're looking back. Now, again, what are you looking for? If you're looking for a swing, you're looking actually for the current candle that's bouncing off the lower moving average. So you want now, or you want maybe the last few days, perhaps. You don't want to look too far back because then that's the reversal to the downside. So I guess it depends on what you're looking for in this example that you're providing me here. So with TradeStation, if you want to buy dips in context of an uptrend on a weekly chart, again, you're looking at a weekly chart. So let's go to a weekly chart since we're talking about that. And then again, you know, so right here, you've got a rise up and you got a pullback. You're looking for the pullback. Maybe you have your moving averages there. You're going to be looking for some kind of a signal on a daily basis or on a weekly basis for that matter, and maybe go back 1 week or 2 weeks, or at least once a week, you're going to be looking at weekly charts and looking to see what's going on. So you might be able to have that occur. Like for instance here, you might have had that bull sash formation at the end of the week, and then you say, okay, well, is this a place to consider buying? And then you go to your daily chart and then reassess once again. That's the week of April 13th. So if I go to that daily chart now, and of course I don't have any other indicators on, but here is then, let's see, I said April 13th, is that what I said? Yeah, so that's going to be in this vicinity right here, April. And there's a support area. So is there anything in here that would have said, yeah, is this Harami significant enough for you to consider a buy? Or maybe it happened later with the hammer. So you have to make those decisions on your own. So if that helps answer your question. Would NCS be able to show whether a candlestick pattern is in compression or consolidation? No. It will not. You would have to do that visually, likely, say with Bollinger Bands or Keltner Bands, or both combined on your charts. So there's no way of knowing that other than just looking at the chart. A candlestick is a candlestick. It's just price action for the day. It's not going to tell you if it's going sideways multiple days or not. I suppose if you did a scan or were looking for maybe sometimes a series of maybe doji-like formations or spinning tops kind of thing, high waves, many times you will see sort of sideways action that could be happening. So if you look, case in point, here and here, so it's just a quick identification. So maybe you're doing a scan or a search for just those, and you might be able to see that, plus combine that in conjunction with your Bollinger Bands, Keltner Bands, or both, and maybe that gets you a better idea of that consolidation, compression versus expansion. What look back is most viable or optimal as a trading strategy? What look back do you use for your scans? There is nothing viable that's best or optimal. It depends again on what you're doing and what you're looking for, what time frame you're looking for, what type of strategy or method you're using. So if it's a swing trade, are you looking for some quick, really quick, fast stuff based on some very quick, fast moving averages? Or are you looking for something super slow and gradual? Then again, look backs are just going to depend on what seems to work over time. I can't tell you what works for you. When I've done scans, as I said before, when I do stuff for like the casual trader, the weekly is, and I'm looking for long-term trades for the casual trader on a Sunday when we post that on a Sunday. So we're just looking for something slow, methodical. I will look back, sometimes even on a monthly, just to go back even a couple, 3 months. The weekly may be the same thing, anywhere from 2 to maybe 4 or 5 months, or a week, pardon me. And then the daily, I'll be looking back at least a few days. And I'm looking for combinations of what seems to be best. It can yield a lot of results, but at the same token, there's still my interpretation, bottom line at the end of the day, that will tell me if the context is right and what seems to look the best based on that. So you have to kind of play around with what seems to work best for your strategies. There's nothing possibly optimal that I think I can possibly provide you because I don't really know what you are doing in your trading. Let's see, how is candlestick trading different from price action trading? Well, price action is price action. I mean, when you have a candlestick, the price action for the day was a high, a low, and open and close. That's the price action. And then the overall price action of just what happens consecutively, hour to hour or day to day, and so on and so on. There's price action is just what's happening. It's price action is rising, price action is dropping, price action is volatile, price action is compressing. Like that's how I would be interpreting that. So, so I'm not sure if that's the right question you're asking me, or if that's the right answer you're looking for. But like, so in other words, also price action. If you look here, you've got a rising trend, and then price action also starting to compress, right? So meanwhile, there's volatility at the bottom, which you'd expect on a reversal. Big, large candles, big swings, upper, lower shadows. And then things get quiet with consolidations as they start to pick up strength. And then there's bursts and again, consolidations, or at least profit taking. But the overall movement of price action, patterns in charts, patterns in candles, and the coincidences of them all can actually give you and yield tremendous information as well. Is there a refresh course like the bouncing ball? A refresh course? Well, I'm not sure what that means exactly. There is a video that was produced some time ago that explains the bouncing ball. It is in our, for those who are members, have access to that, or bouncing ball will also be, of course, part of the NCS package if you've purchased it. So in terms of refresh, I'm not sure what you're quite referring to there. If there's something else new, perhaps. There's nothing new to discuss there, I don't think, anyway. And then Stephen, yeah, do I mean there's no magic pill? Well, there's a magic pill, but it has nothing to do with trading. If you have magic pills that will, put you to sleep for the rest of your life, I'm not sure that's magical necessarily. But anyway, So nothing regarding trading, no, there really isn't. There's so many different ways, hundreds and thousands of different ways to trade. 10 people could be in a room and look at a chart and see different things. And I've had those conversations multiple times. So when I'm doing recaps or I'm doing strategy sessions and so on, obviously the reason people sometimes ask advice or they're looking to seek what other eyes are seeing is to just get another perspective, because they may be missing something, and there may be something that they're learning new now that is a version of interpretation that may have been not there for them in the past. So no magic pill, lots of ways to do this, and it's interesting because I've actually seen essentially two expert traders, the same chart, same time frame, and same day, within the same day, and even within the same hours, one trade long and one trade short, and both be successful, because their strategies were looking for specific events during that time frame, and they hit their criteria, and yet they may not have been buying or selling at the exact same time, but it was still within the same window of, say, an hour or half hour, and sometimes it worked for both. So again, depends on what your criteria are and what your strategies are, and making them work. So no magic pill. Just again, understanding candlesticks. Because candlesticks are powerful in the sense that they are telling you what the people are doing as a whole. What is the public doing? What are the traders doing? What's the consensus at the time? Is it very bullish? Is it very bearish? Is it sort of undecided? Are they done buying? Are they out of buyers? Are they out of sellers? And those are, those can be some of the most powerful moves you see, and that's where candlesticks really shine probably the most. When the Japanese discovered this and developed this, is that they were looking for reversals. Generally speaking, candlesticks were designed for that. There's also some signs that will show you levels of continuation, that there's no sign of selling yet, there's no sign of necessarily buying just yet, but there's going to be a continuation in the same direction until told otherwise. So that's the cool stuff about candlesticks. So again, the patterns are there, abbreviated or not, for education purposes, but also just for quick identification. At that point, also, you're using them in conjunction with whatever indicator you may or may not have. You are then going to be making interpretations on whether there's a strong signal or a weak signal, and whether it's something that's worthwhile. Yeah, this is not Steve, this is Sil. I may have say Steve on the presenter. I forgot to change it, so I can quickly change that just so you know my full and proper name. Let me do that right now. My apologies for not doing that earlier. There we go. Okay, so now I should appear. So I'm one of two NISN certified trainers, myself and Brian, and I'm done several courses on my own. I've done several courses along with Steve in the past. I do recaps, I do strategy sessions, I do the Forex, I do a lot of the charts of the day, strategy sessions, the chart challenges and morning trade setups as well, for those who you may not be familiar. And that's all part of the mycandlecharts.com membership and community that we have. You have access to all kinds of resources there for educational purposes at your disposal. So let me see, is there, I guess the other thing would be now maybe the market analyzer very quickly. No one really asked about scanning, other than a few questions were regarding backdating or backtesting. And the, so I have a few instruments here on the screen. Let me see if I actually have additional, I do. I've got a couple of other market analyzers that I had. Let me see if they're blank. These are blank. I'll just bring them up on the screen anyway. So the one on the far left can be used as a watch list. So you can then link up this instrument list to the chart itself. So if you click on it, the chart will change. That's just for that. But in terms of how you might set up a scan, you would just set up the columns, and you would add, in this case, it's NinjaTrader 8. So you add the candle chart scanner, And then again, you would configure what candlesticks you want on the scan, right? And then here's your look back period. So if I just look back 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, this is set up as a daily, right? So this, keep in mind, you need to make sure that you check the data series, that it's not minute, that it's day, or it's week or month that you're scanning. That makes a big difference, right? And you're going with 1 day values, unless you want to try a 2 day value where each candlestick represents 2 days. There's always that too, when you just start combining candlesticks together. And that's about it. You could change some of these other criteria. There's additional potential conditions at the bottom that you might have, but those are really more necessary when you're doing perhaps other indicators like stochastics, RSI, where maybe something is overbought or oversold and you want to be alerted or something like that. And that's it, set up that way. And so you would have where you would add an instrument list at that point. And I could go with, say, the Dow Jones 30, just make a small list, select them all. Looks like this market analyzer is dysfunctional because it's probably been sitting idle for too long. I'm just going to get rid of it. And I'm going to create a new one then. So let's go back. Oops. There we go. Somehow those are malfunctioning. Where is? There it is. So here's a new one. I'll make that a little smaller. You see at the top, it defaults with instrument, ask price, bid price, last price. So you can just drag those out or configure them in the column window. So again, I'll go to Candle Chart Scanner and add it. And then once again, there we are. So I can do one look back just for 1 day for now, and then click OK. You'll see 2 columns. You right click, add instrument list again. I'll go Dow Jones and select them all. It'll load, and when they're yellow, it starts to scan, and now it's looking for whatever candle pattern I had, like in the last day. And if something is there, it will then appear in the scan. So right now it's still scanning and looking through and following through and so on and so on. So if something is yielded, it'll show up. So there it is. You got a whole bunch of responses here. And that's how that would work. So again, you could have multiple columns. You could have another column for a monthly, a weekly, and a daily chart. You could have intraday charts as well in terms of what it's scanning for. Again, whatever pattern you want. And then whatever look back period for each individual column as well. So you do multiple columns of this included. So that's how that would work. Whatever configuration you like. Okay. Let's see. I may have missed a few questions. I apologize. I think that I didn't scroll down fast enough. All right, let's see. No, I guess that was the last question. Was it me or Steve here on the lecture? So, okay, let me see. I covered the highlighting. I covered some of the configurations. I covered indicators included, the scanner, which is in the market analyzer, those configurations for both, essentially, and how that can be done. So in terms of its power, well, it's as powerful as you make it. So, if I was scanning, for instance, and I had identified this bear sash formation on this daily chart of the NASDAQ, I would have, considered that a pretty strong, powerful bear sash just based on its mere size and where it's located, especially with the upper shadow. Now the question is it truly, truly, truly going to be bearish at that exact moment? Well, no one ever knows that 100%, right? So again, interpretation and context. So those of you who understand support resistance would identify clearly that there was a breakout period right here, this long, strong green candle, and right now it's pulling back to a support area, which is the polarity, which Steve talks about a lot. So probably not ideally the best time unless you could strongly anticipate that this is going to start dropping. The other thing that I would have been watching for very closely here is the fact that there's a trend coming up, and that's still in a rising uptrend. So there's 2 strong support levels, despite how bearish that is, that I might say, I'm not quite ready just yet to consider this a short side. Although the size alone and what it's been doing and how it's doing it certainly piques my interest to say, let me keep an eye on it at least. So you put it on a watch list to watch on a daily basis. And because the significance of the candle alone, not just because it's a bear sash, and it showed up on your chart, but because its level of significance, period. So there's your high wave, and now it becomes perhaps, you know, something a little more attractive because it's dropped below the trend line. It's still at support horizontally, however, so you're still watching it that much more closely. It's undecided. It's really not rebounding very aggressively on the bullish side, but it's still holding the horizontal support, right? Through there, and then you see what happens right after it drops through. So there was really no strong bullish push, so it became more and more attractive in terms of a bearish possibility, and it drops to the next level of support at that point because the criteria were setting up better and better and better because you identified a powerful bear sash formation. Sometimes those formations, those patterns are not so powerful and they're not near as attractive. So like this shooting star, for instance, to me would not have been necessarily a powerful candle pattern. It's not very large in size. It doesn't overwhelm the bullish activity from before. The only thing that might be intriguing is the fact that it occurred right when everything broke down at that polarity. So it's been running for several days. It may pull back, and so you might have a small pullback, but I wouldn't be looking for this to be a huge bearish run, let's put it that way. And then you never know. It dropped abruptly, and then see, they halted it right away. So you might have been able to take advantage of that move right away, but you'd have to, again, identify all these criteria and decide, do I want to make a trade here or not? You're going to miss things. You're going to not miss things, and based on your interpretations, you're not going to get them all. There's always a trade available somewhere along the way. It's a question of, do they fit your criteria, your risk pattern, okay? So if there's no sound on your side, it's certainly not from me, because I'm definitely speaking loud and clear. After factoring Western technicals, you see a bearish reversal candlestick pattern like a shooting star at the top. Do you short one tick below that shooting star and stop a few ticks above the shooting star, or you wait for further price confirmation? Like, well, again, that's kind of what I was just talking about now. Just because there's a shooting star doesn't mean it's an automatic trade. It's got to fit more criteria. In this particular example, because of where it occurred and after multiple sessions higher, I would have looked at this very closely, but I would have not necessarily considered this to drop aggressively or even like for the multiple sessions to the downside because of how bullish this was. Everything was rising. I would expect some kind of pullback, some kind of profit taking. It might come into this area here. The stop area traditionally is above the shooting star by Steve's education, the Japanese folks. In terms of when and where you trade, that's up to you. You can go ticks below. You can go to an intraday chart, like an hourly chart, and get a more refined version. We teach that method and strategy as well in some of our courses in terms of looking at the setup is here. You go down at least 1 or 2 time frames to get a more precise buying entry price. And that will be based on what you see on that chart. That may not be necessarily a tick below. That may be where it already drops and pulls back up to what was resistance before, and then you enter there based on more bearish candlesticks that are showing up on an intraday chart. So there's lots of different ways to go about this, but the one thing I will confirm is that, yes, traditionally on the shooting star, the stop area is above that somewhere, that of your choice. And then many will look for confirmation. That confirmation can come from resistance, or that confirmation can come with an additional bearish candle below. There's all kinds of ways, methods, combinations, variations to that. Where can we find the abbreviations, for example? So the abbreviations, if you have NCS, are actually found in the resources in your Candle Charts Academy site. So wherever you found the links to download, et cetera, the videos, you'll see a PDF there with giving you the abbreviations for what those are. Again, as I said, also in case, and this is how I did it originally, I went in and for most of these, at times I would, for learning purposes, just to get the abbreviations in my head and just the language, I went in here and I took off the abbreviations and had full text so I could read them, and then I would know which was which. So you can use that as well. It's up to you. But the abbreviation handout, if you will, is a PDF found in Countercharts Academy in the resources for NCS, where you had all your links and so on. Okay. The meaning of the letters. Well, so negative is bearish, positive is bullish, and then the letters would be E for engulfing, Hatami HR, hammer H, etc., shooting star S, etc., etc. So those again are abbreviations found in the text. You can also remove the abbreviations on the chart and see the full text at your disposal. Okay. All right. I'm not sure I don't see any more questions. They're certainly not funneling in at the rate that they were once before. Paul had covered many aspects in terms of the platforms that are supported. So, and then also NinjaTrader 8 probably has the most functionality, probably including maybe TradeStation as well, where you've got the ease of highlighting on the charts themselves, the scanning purposes. And if one wanted to use alerts, they could use alerts. Some of the other platforms don't have all of those features, and that's based on their platform, not because we chose not to. It was not available, not possible. So simple as that. The lifetime offer, is that my lifetime? Is that my lifetime or Steve Nissen's lifetime? That's a good question. How's his health? Can we see Steve Nissen's health records? Well, wow. Are you a medical doctor? I'll let Paul handle that one. Let's see. Let's go back to this chart. I know I just spoke with Steve yesterday. He sounds fantastic. He's vacationing with his lovely wife. So that tells you anything. All right. Okay, so let's see. Anything else? I don't see any other questions so far. I think maybe, I believe Paul is still on the line, and I'm sure he may come back in and answer any final things and close this out. But any last questions, folks, on anything regarding this open house we're having on the NCS? Let's see, I can get my MT4 highlighter. So yeah, MT4 has NCH, which is called the Nissen Candle Highlighter, because that's the only feature that it supports, is the highlighter itself for the charts, which is still powerful for Forex, of course. So that is available, and if you need access to that, you want to purchase whatever, then speak with Paul, email Paul, talk to Paul today, text him right now, and he will be happy to follow up with you on that. You can't get notification. I'm not sure what that means exactly. Notification. On NinjaTrader platform, how many ways can you get an alert by text? You can use it on your phone. You can have it on your screen. You can have it, if you have a Twitter account, you can have things actually posted to Twitter account as well. So it depends on what you're looking to do and how to do it, but certainly it will go to your phone, email, and right there on your screen. To do it on all of that, it has to be running, however. The program has to be running. So if you're stepping away and going to work or wherever you're going, your computer and program must be running. At least that's my understanding. That's what I've seen it. I don't believe it will run unless it's actually turned on, because the program runs resident on your computer, NinjaTrader particularly. It's not web-based, so it's not on their end, it's going to be on your end. So hence the computer must be running. That's about the only thing there, okay? So alerts, let's see. Hold on a second, let me do this. If I can quickly. There's the alert log in terms of the various kind of columns that you can have, the time it occurred, what the message was in terms of the message you may have set up. Okay, that's that part. If you have alerts that will occur in the market analyzer, and the new version of NinjaTrader 8 now had alerts right off the screen, right off the chart, which I really like. And so when you set something up, you will have, like for instance, I have this default, for instance, on this one, it was a cross above based on moving averages, price moved above a moving average. So like if you're looking at swing trading, like we discussed earlier, maybe that's going to be of use to you. In terms of the actions, you have sounds, right? You can do all kinds of various sounds. You can share the message, as you can see here, in which case this is where a NinjaTrader you would be setting up how and what service that would be. So the shared services would be what you would actually have to set up in advance. And that's just done fairly easily in the configuration. At this point, you have to tell it your email, you have to tell it your phone, et cetera, so it knows where to send it, right? And then there may be a message that's customized that you want to put in there, whatever that may be. But that's how that's done. So, okay. But that's doable and possible. And they have videos on this sort of thing, on how to configure that stuff. NinjaTrader's got an enormous resource on YouTube. They have their own YouTube channel, various videos. They do webcasts on a regular basis covering all kinds of things, strategies and alerts and whatever as well, okay? I can't get push button notification. Right, you won't because, again, as I said before, their NCH is only highlighting your charts. It does nothing else. It doesn't have alerts, and it doesn't have scanning purposes. So you will not get push notifications because it's not a feature that's available to you. Okay, all right, let's see. Anybody else? Just checking to see if there's anything anybody wants or needs here. I don't see us kind of going once, going twice. Here's anybody at all? Then I think Paul, yeah, come on in and.
I'm here, Sil.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much, Sil. This is Paul talking again now, and I'd be more than happy to stay on. First of all, thank you, Sil, for showing the examples and things of that nature. There were a couple of questions I do want to answer that maybe Sil didn't get to all of those. He was fully intended on answering all those technical questions. Stephen, you had a question about Steve Nissing's health record. The answer to your question is that it's your lifetime. You own it for the rest of your life. When you buy the software lifetime, it does include any and all updates that we ever do to it. So I'm not sure if you were in the room before, but we do have people that bought our software about 10, 11, 12 years ago when it was working on NinjaTrader 4. And while NinjaTrader continued to do updates to their software, we had to do updates to ours to make sure that it was compatible. So those students that bought it 10 years ago still can utilize the software even on NinjaTrader 8. No additional purchase required for those updates. So it is your lifetime, Stephen, and I hope your health is in great shape. In fact, a neat story, we actually had a student purchased the software about 5 years ago. He called me to ask that same question, was it his lifetime or Steve Nissing's lifetime? And I said, yours. And he actually asked if he could put it into his will to have his grandson take ownership of the software. And we're allowing that to happen now that we have record of that. So, Stephen, I personally am not worried about Steve Nissing's health, but it would not be of any matter of concern when you buy the lifetime. Hopefully that makes sense on that. Toniston, hope I pronounced that correct. The software, when you purchase it, the license is actually valid for 2 machines. And that's a great question because we get this often. You know, think back to that person who bought it 10 years ago. Obviously, there's a strong chance that you're going to go through more than one computer. So you can certainly install it on 2 machines today. and a year from now, 5 years from now, whenever it happens to be, you replace that computer with a new computer, you're more than welcome to switch it over and have it on 2 machines at that time. Okay, so you can certainly install it on 2 machines right now, and then, so let's say you put it on machines A and B, and machine A blows up 5 years from now, you want to put it onto machine C, you basically let us know, we remove it from A, and you would then have it on machines B and C. Hopefully that makes sense, but by all means, type in any other further follow-up questions. I am here to answer any other questions that you do have about the candle scanner. We did put the link in before for information on how to take advantage of that special offer. The link is candlecharts.com/NCS. And again, NCS is just our abbreviation for Nissen Candle Scanner. And I'll put that in again, just so that everybody can see. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any other questions. There it is, a couple of questions that I always say, does this work in India? Absolutely. It does, yes, it works in India, Australia, UK, pretty much anywhere in the world, as long as you can provide the data feed for the markets that you're looking for. Again, it does come with free end-of-day data. It does, just got the question, does it work on Bitcoin? Absolutely. Does it work on marijuana stocks? Absolutely. So there are multiple, oh, thanks, Sil. Sil is switching over slides there. And Sil, if you see a question pop up, by all means, if you want to take over, just let me know.
Sure.
But
Okay.
there are different various hot areas of the market over time. For example, you know, this year I've been getting questions, does it cover marijuana stocks? It will cover any market that you have data for. So yes, marijuana stocks, Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was very hot, I was getting questions on that on a regular basis. It'll work on ETFs. We have hundreds, if not 1,000 students in India using the software right now. We get that question quite often. You know, does it work where I am? And the answer is pretty much yes. For questions on pricing and things of that nature, go to that link, candlecharts.com/NCS. You will see the monthly, the annual, and the lifetime offer. Again, with the monthly, you can certainly start out with monthly, and you can upgrade to lifetime with credit for what you paid for that first month. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll put my email in here in a couple of seconds if you have questions after this. My email is paul@candlecharts.com. I'd be more than happy to answer anything now or via email as needed. And Sil is showing various charts. And realize he's looking at this is a daily chart that you can see on the screen. But again, the common question is, you know, does it work on 5-minute charts, 15-minute charts? And the answer is yes, again, as long as you have the appropriate data connection. And he just pulled up a 5-minute chart, and he just highlighted that up at the top of the screen. Melvin's question is, are there training or new training to use? We have a multitude of videos. When somebody is, when you purchase the candle scanner, you would have access to all of the resources inside of candlechartsacademy.com, specifically on how to use the candle scanner. So as Sil said before, we do have best practice videos. We have trade setup videos that different parts of our team have created. I created one video that I use on the bouncing ball. So you can certainly go in there and watch those at any point, you know, which obviously includes things from installation, downloading, as well as best practices if you want to learn how to scan or alert or even change the background colors and things of that nature. All of that is in the videos, all in one centralized location at Candle Charts Academy. So all you have to do is remember your login, username, and password to get into candlechartsacademy.com. You're very welcome, Melvin. we're gonna wrap this up in a couple of minutes. So while you have myself and Sil both here, if you do have any other questions, um, by all means, type those in now. Having Sil available would be a great asset. Sil, would you take a look at Bruce's question there?
Will you look at specific stocks like Bund, and what about iPod? iPod like Chewy? Well, okay, sorry, meant BYND. So okay, BYND. You're looking to see if we actually have that. So this right now I've got a 4-hour chart up just because Uber is newly traded and it's not worth looking at on a daily chart. So let me switch this over. I guess it looks like this is pretty new as well. So let me just quickly go to a daily. I just want to see what that looks like. So daily is still very new as well, right? So there's your daily, and that's so you have it's available. There it is. I'll go down to a 60-minute chart and get you a whole bunch more details so you can see what's really going on, kind of hour to hour, day to day. So it's there. IPO. So IPO, yeah, I mean, as long as it's available with data on whatever you have, it's going to show up on the chart. So it's all depending on what you're using. If you're using this platform and the data is there, it'll show up. And then after that, yeah, the candlesticks appear because it's the data. So it is what it is. So yeah, these things show up. So I had Uber up a minute ago. That's another recent IPO. There's OBLN was another one that's been traded for quite some time. This BYND obviously is another one, Beyond. And if there's another one you want me to show up, I can certainly do it. But yeah, it's available, absolutely. I'm trying to think, there's another couple of them that somebody had mentioned recently, and I can't think of their symbols at the moment, so I apologize. It's not coming to mind. But yeah, this stuff, as long as there's data and you can put on your chart, and as long as you've got the data, no matter where you are in the world, it's like I said, is it available in India? If you can get a chart like this up in India with the data, the NCS will work because it's just an indicator. Does Bollinger Bands and MACDs work in India? Yes. Well, then, in other words, the NCS will. Just think of it as an equal in the sense of it's an indicator, but obviously NCS certainly not being equal. It's telling you some powerful candle signals based on your interpretation, right? So you got Bruce, no worries. I had somebody had mentioned Bitcoin earlier. I had that up. I had the ETF version, GBTC. And then I actually had the continuous contract XBT, which is Bitcoin. So you just type it in and it brings it up. In this case, it's on a 60-minute chart. So I want to go back to a daily. So you just punch in the daily as well. All the data is there. It will pull up that futures contract on a daily basis as it loads here. And you can easily switch back and forth. Daily, weekly, monthly. Suddenly now it didn't like what I just did for some reason. It should be coming now. Here it goes. Must be scanning in the background and things what's happening. So yeah, anyway, let me see what happened there. Not sure what happened there. Anyway, what other questions? Anybody else? Paul, bring anything else up? We talked about time frames and so on.
That's all the questions that I see. I'm sure I'll be getting more emails and things of that nature. By the way, if you don't mind, for the people still in the room, I'd love to hear your feedback. Was this helpful? Did we answer your questions? Would you like to see something different? We do want to make sure that how we do these types of impromptu sessions would be of assistance to anyone in the room. So if you're in the room, I love to have you just type in, was this helpful? Do you have other questions? Any other type of feedback would be absolutely helpful for us to make sure that we're getting the information over. Very good, Rob. Rob says that's very helpful. Thank you, Rob, for putting that in. It is those kinds of pieces of feedback that help us to to help our students. Stephen says, great job, guys. Round of applause. I am sure that's way more for Sil. So Rob, Sil, Stephen is giving you a round of applause right now.
Well, thank you very much, Stephen. Appreciate that. Always like to hear that and see that. Thank you very much.
Bruce says, looks interesting, needs to spend more time. And that's exactly why we're doing this session, Bruce, so that we can answer your questions. We do have various videos. If you take a look at that page at candletarks.com/NCS, we do have a video on there that kind of walks you through the use. I will tell you, I've been using the software for about 12 years myself. I could not imagine trading without it. It will provide me with trade setups every single day without me needing to literally search chart after chart after chart. I know that Steve created the software for exactly that reason. He wanted it to be able to wake up and take a look at a listing of different market instruments that fit his criteria. And I will tell you this, the more you utilize the software, the better it becomes. You get more ideas. You'll find from other students, like in the best practices, what other students are doing or how they're actually using it to benefit from the software. So it is only a powerful tool when you utilize it in that way. Again, multiple time frames. It allows people to trade things like Forex and stocks and commodities and futures and Forex and you name it, it's available. And this will find you opportunities with different watch lists that you can create. I know Steve has one watch list specifically on ETFs that he likes to trade. He has a different watch list for a different section of stocks. So you can certainly create your own watch list or you can utilize a predetermined watch list like the stocks in the S&P 500 as an example. So the link again, candletarks.com/NCS. I know that Sil has to run. Sil, if you have any other final comments, by all means.
No, I guess really, I mean, you can see it's not really that complex. Really, it's really not. It's fairly straightforward. It's a matter of if you're new to trading, it's extremely valuable to learn candlesticks from this, because I know I did. I had minimal education originally. That's how I found Steve originally, was I actually bought this actual software to learn candlesticks better. And from there, it's just like the doors opened wide open for me to learn and understand them that much better again. So this was huge for me in terms of stepping stones toward my current education and understanding now, knowledge base. So it's a great investment. It was invaluable to me still to this day. So it's not that complex. You make it as complex as you want, but really simplify it. Learn the candles first. This is a great way to do that. And I was in the same seat for many of you, not that many years ago, learning candlesticks. And this is how I started, really, quite frankly. So I was overwhelmed by the number of candlesticks out there and what they meant in the interpretation. This provided me the best, fastest way to understand them and use them, and with confidence that knowing that they were correct, that they weren't some weird interpretation from someone else. So I'll leave it at that. And I guess if there's any other questions, at some point, maybe people can reach out to me, or certainly reach out to Paul for whatever questions you might have, again, on NCS, candlesticks, the education, and whatever else we have to offer for you folks.
Thank you all for attending, and we look forward to working with you over here at CandleTarks Academy with the Nissan Candle Scanner. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.